bag makers, Lisa here from Andrie Designs. I just thought I'd pop a quick little video together to show you how to position and install connector covers. So these are a nice little add-on to any bag really to cover the bottom part of a strap connector. You can make them out of leather and cork. They just add a nice little accent to your bag, and once you know how to position them accurately and then install them on the machine, they're very easy to do and they just add that little pop. I'm working on the Creatives tote in this video, so let's get started. Once your handle connectors are all attached, it's time to cover them up and really add that extra feature to the panels by attaching the connector covers. So regardless of if you have raw edge ones out of cork or leather like I do, or if you've made the fabric ones like we did earlier, this is how we're going to attach them. So the easiest way I find is to use tape on the back of the connector. Glue also works well, otherwise you can pin them. It's just quite thick to get through, especially in the center. So yeah, I find tape is usually the easiest way. And all you're going to do is simply place your adhesive material, so to speak, on the back of one connector, on the wrong side. If you've used fabric, it'll be on the side with the slit, because remember that is the wrong side. And then all we're going to do is place it directly over top of one connector. You want to have the straight, flat edge of the cover sitting right up just over top of the stitching you've made, and you want to center it horizontally as best you can. You can measure if you like, however I just eyeball it and see what looks centered, and I look at the gap up here and what looks even on both sides, and that it's nice and square in relation to the connector and then the panel. Once you're happy with your placement, just stick it down and it is ready to be stitched in place. So come with me, we'll head over to the machine and I'll show you how to top stitch your connector in place. To attach the connector, I'm going to use my walking foot. I just personally prefer that it helps guide all of the layers through the machine. And when I go over the area with the hardware, I just use my height compensation tool to level the foot out. However, if you find it easier, you could use your zipper foot instead. I also like using my walking foot because it helps me follow a seam allowance, whereas on a zipper foot it's very hard to, you kind of have to just eyeball it. So we're going to be stitching around the outer edge of the connector using a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and a normal top stitch length of about 2 to 2.5 millimeters. As always, make sure your needle is set to the needle down position. And I typically like to start right in the center of the top straight edge. So I just position it under my foot. It's a snug fit, but it does fit. Grab the tails of the thread, and we're not going to make any reverse stitches because it's a nice top stitching feature. So we will at the end thread the threads through to the back and tie off with a knot. So once you're lined up, we're just going to nice and slow and steady, actually put this under here. Slow and steady, we're going to stitch right across to this first corner using a 1/8 allowance. And just adjust your tool or your fabric or your panel as needed, because this can be a little bit fiddly, but fussiness pays off because these are such a feature on the bag. So when you get to that first corner, make sure your needle is down, lift your foot, and just rotate your panel ready to come down that first side. So yep, that looks good. I'm going to drop my foot, but first I'm going to place my tool under that side so my foot's fairly level. And now I'm going to stitch down and around the curve very slowly and very deliberately. These can take a little bit of practice stitching these covers on, and what I recommend if you are uncertain stitching curves and you find you do the first one and you really don't like it, is consider doing the ones on what will be the back panel of the bag first and treat them a bit like your practice ones, and then do the front ones last so that you've sort of had a bit of practice and you're a bit more confident by that stage as well. I'm just going to put my tool at the back because I'm coming up to the hardware and I don't want my foot to be wonky. I'm just going to stitch right up to that top corner, if we can get there. And I'm just going to lift, have a look. I think I'm in the corner. I think I've gone far enough, but I'm going to check. No, I need to go just a little bit further to get the 1/8 on the straight top edge. So I'm just going to hand wind ever so slightly, a small stitch there, and turn, and that's ready to come back across. So I'm going to put this tool at the back. Might use the double just to lift my foot up so it's nice and level. I've got my tails, there they are, waiting for me. And we're just going to go 1/8 back to where we started. Remember, we're not reversing at the beginning and end. So when you get back to where you started, you can lift your work out. And that looks really good. I'm really happy with that. So from here, pause the video, pop back to your workstation, and we will continue. Now that your first connector cover is stitched in place, to finish off and secure those threads, we're just going to take a needle and feed them through to the wrong side of the panel. And then take all the threads and just tie them off in a simple little reef knot. I like to use a double knot just so that I know it's nice and secure. There we go. So the first connector, oh, there's my needle, is attached. So from here, pause the video and repeat this process to attach the remaining 3 connectors to the remaining covers, the remaining connector covers to the remaining connectors on your bag. And that's all there is to it. Like I said before, once you know what you're doing, it's very easy to position and install connector covers, and they really do just add that little bit extra, especially if you use leather or cork as the accent. I hope you've learned a few little tips and tricks in this video, and until next time, happy sewing!